confirm it, but I understand. I know military governor or something like that in the past. Hmm? So this is serious. Man's disease, the powerful man's disease. Who will always be quick to tell you, it's only big men that die, that they are only ones we hear have died of this. Let me tell them that such people make the headlines is
Okay.
because of who they are. When when a prominent person is sick or dies, it's news. But when the ordinary person out there is sick or dies, the newspapers and indeed the broadcast media may not find it that important to announce, and that is the unfair state of the world. So many people die. Out of every 100, the rest will be the ordinary Nigerian citizen who may not have the money and who obviously will not be celebrated, or like the prominent ones. So COVID is not just for the rich; it's also for the poor. But it affects even the poor more than the rich. Why? Because the rich are less likely to gather in crowds to adhere to the non-pharmaceutical protective measures like wearing a mask, wearing a face shield, washing hands. Why? Because these things are easily available to them, so they have the money to purchase it. So, unlike the poor man who probably stays in a face apartment, what Nigerians call face apartment, and who has no choice but to interact with his numerous neighbors. The rich man stays in a big compound. So it's probably only his family members. So that is so those who have not got it, who are not lucky enough to have the funds, are more exposed to this. But unfortunately, we see that those who tend to disbelieve the existence of COVID are usually seen more among the so-called people who do not have the funds. So the so-called lower class are the ones who do not believe, and they are the ones more at risk because of increased exposure. So I appeal to all my citizens. COVID is, as I always say every time, COVID does not. Nigerian can be like COVID. We have a great. If the average Nigerian can be like SARS-CoV-2 that causes COVID-19, we have a great country. You know why? Because COVID does not discriminate. It does not care about that. It doesn't care if you are Muslim. COVID does not care whether you are a Christian or Muslim or traditional worshipper. COVID does not care whether you are rich or poor. It does not care whether you live in Lagos or Ogun State or Sokoto or Abia. COVID will attack you. It doesn't care whether you are white or black. It will attack you the same way it will attack the next person. So please, let us take all the non-pharmaceutical measures while we are waiting for the vaccine to come into Nigeria. Non-pharmaceutical measures like making sure that we wash our hands regularly with soap, and that when we wash with soap, we should be trained enough to wash for at least 20 seconds, at least. Then we should make sure we wear our mask. Wear our mask. I see people every day walking around without mask. I was at ShopRite in Kenya just, and I noticed that when I was entering, the security man at the entrance was telling people to put on their mask. So they will put it on just
to enter,
to allow them pass. The moment they pass the security man, they will pull down the mask. Some will outrightly remove it and be walking around. And I found it quite disturbing. I said, look, this is not a case of ignorance, not heard of any, when you've not heard of I don't think there's any Nigerian that has not heard of COVID-19. So this is more a case of being stupid and being suicidal, because they are playing with your life when you do not wear your mask. There are places you go to in Lagos and indeed other parts of Nigeria. When you enter, you feel like fish out of water, because you notice that you are the only one wearing a mask and everybody is. Now, COVID affects the lungs, and talking about today, we are talking about the lungs. The lungs, which is only of the primary area where COVID attacks, even though it attacks other parts of the body, as we have seen recently. But the lungs, and when you ask me, okay, what are lungs? What are lungs? The lungs are spongy organs which are located in the chest. There are usually two, one on the left, one on the right. And they are responsible. Responsibility is to ensure exchange of gas within us through breathing. So when we breathe in blood, and in exchange for this oxygen which it has put into the blood, our lungs collect carbon dioxide from the blood and expels out when we breathe out. So we have exchanged that's the carbon dioxide which is breathed out for oxygen. And this oxygen obviously plays a very important role in the body. Without oxygen, there cannot be metabolism. The various cells of the body use the oxygen to metabolize, to keep themselves alive, to generate energy for survival and for growth. So that is it. Without the lungs to take in oxygen, without the lungs, you and I obviously will affect our ability to breathe, and definitely will lead to life being quite uncomfortable and even life being lost. So this is basically it. So now, when you talk about lungs, there are two lungs, there's the left and there's the right. Usually form part of what we call the lower respiratory tract. The lungs together with and various divisions of that tract here, like the bronchi, the bronchioles, together with the respiratory tract. That is quite distinct from the involves the nose, the mouth area, the pharynx, the larynx. So that's quite distinct. Now, the unique thing about the anatomy of the lungs is that the ear tubes, like the bronchioles, which divide inside the lungs, end up ultimately in the active part of the lung, known as the alveoli. The alveoli is the area, is the part of the lung that actually receives oxygen when you breathe in. And each alveoli, I have to mention here, there are as much as 500 million alveoli in the body. Okay. So each in the lungs, each alveoli, when it receives oxygen, each of them are surrounded by very tiny blood vessels. And the reason for this, for the presence of a lot of blood vessels within the lungs, is to ensure the seamless exchange of oxygen. So oxygen now diffuses across the walls of the alveoli to enter the blood vessels. To show you how important the lungs are, at any point in time, you have about 1/10 of the blood volume in your body eh, inside the lungs, that's surrounding the lungs at any time. So that means every tenth of your blood at every time of the day is in the lung for the purpose of exchange of gas. And the the human machine, the human machine has been so created to be so unique that just like many other organs of our body, we don't use most parts of our lungs. We don't use most parts of our lungs. Most people do not even use up to 25% of their lung capacity, except, of course, when you become active. The reason for this is the body recognizes the fact that when you are active, when you are running up and down, when you are excited, when you are fighting, the body knows that you require more oxygen. And it means that the lungs at this time will need to expand more oxygen faster. So that is why a great amount of reserve is put in the lungs for such sudden change in oxygen demand. So now, apart from breathing, which we all associate with the lungs play a lot of other functions. Now, Buki, you can see I'm talking to you and to the listeners. Each time I speak, I'm able to speak because my lungs are functioning. I speak. What happens in natural forces out air from within it, and this air, while being forced out, goes through my voice box, that's the larynx, and the voice box now uses the air that has been forced out by the lungs to form words, to form that sounds you hear from that next person comes from the expulsion of air. So without lungs, you cannot speak, you can't make any sound at all. The lungs also play a role in controlling our. It produces a special enzyme known as the angiotensin converting enzyme, which converts what we call angiotensin 1 to angiotensin 2. Now, angiotensin 2 plays a very important role in constricting blood pressure, constricting the blood vessels. It causes that your blood pressure is falling. Through this enzyme, causes production of this angiotensin 2, which will on its own cause your blood pressure to come back up. So if you need your lungs, probably your blood pressure will crash. The lungs also play an absorptive role. It absorbs certain drugs. Anesthetists around the world understand this very well, and it helps make their work easy. Anesthetic drugs, for example, you have a surgery, you're to undergo surgery. Anesthetic gases are given to you. And how do they give you these anesthetic gases? They give you these gases by pumping the gas into your lymph and anesthetize you, put you to sleep. So surgery can go on without you. So doing the lungs have absorbed drugs because those anesthetic gases are drugs themselves. So the lungs also protect you and I from infection. Each time we breathe in, apart from air, we breathe in dust, we breathe in other particles. Sometimes we even breathe in bacteria. We know that a city like Lagos is a very polluted city because of so many cars, industry. Without the protective effect of the protective function of our lungs, we wouldn't survive. So each respiratory pathway, particularly the terminal, what you call the terminal bronchiole, have this respiratory pathways also produce mucus. So this mucus together with the cilia trap and the hair-like particles in the new core that has trapped the bacteria spill it back outside. So in that way, the lungs protect the body. The lungs also secrete certain chemicals which also help fight certain bacteria and viruses. So this shows you how important the lungs are. But like all good things, there's always a danger of that good organ, that good thing becoming bad. And the lungs also face this, fall sick like any part of your body. Inflammatory conditions like pneumonitis can affect the lungs. Other inflammatory conditions can affect the trachea and the bronchi that bring air to the lungs, that bring oxygen to the lungs. Inflammatory conditions like bronchitis. So all this can cause the lungs problems. As a matter of fact, you asked me at the beginning of this year about COVID. One of the problems COVID causes in the lungs, it causes inflammation. And this inflammation could injure the lungs, could make the lungs not to perform the way it should, and could actually ultimately destroy the lung. So much so that our lung capacity falls. So, which can affect the lung. So many other things can. Of course, Buki, you've heard of things like cancer of the lung. The lung, don't forget, the lung is part of the body. And like every part of the body, the lung is also subject to cancer. So cancer can affect the lungs. Then there could be problems with blood supply to the lungs. If, for example, you have a clot, they get the clot from any part of the body to form an emboli, or you have what we call an air emboli. This emboli could travel as a clot to and become lodged in any of the arteries, any of the pulmonary arteries, and that can affect the lungs in many ways. It will affect the function of the lungs. The lungs will not be able to take in air, that's to supply air, that's to supply oxygen to the blood. And this embolism can occur in many of the lungs' major systems. Now, I must point out that the lungs is probably one of these few organs of the body, probably one of the only organs of the body that has a dry blood supply. It has what we call the pulmonary blood supply. It has the bronchial blood supply. The bronchial blood supply is just specifically tailored for the lungs. While the pulmonary blood supply is the one that takes oxygen from the lungs to take around the body. So any of these blood supply can be affected. There could also be hypertension within the lungs, what we call pulmonary hypertension, and that can be quite serious. It can destroy the lungs. Then we have so many other diseases classified as obstructive lung diseases, in which the air pathway is obstructed by one thing or the other, and that make it difficult for the lungs to even receive oxygen. And without receiving oxygen, the functions of the lungs for supplying oxygen to the body will be greatly affected. So, as we go ahead, we'll be able to learn more about lungs. We'll be able to learn also that beyond just its function, the lungs could also have congenital problems, just like any part of problems, which could arise from development when the person involved is in the mother's womb. So we various tests which can be used to diagnose various things in the lungs. And indeed, the practice of medicine which looks at the lungs, primarily known as pulmonology. So we will talk about that, and we will also discuss about some harmful human habits like smoking, which can negatively affect the health of the lungs. Uh, so our lungs are invaluable, and we should treat it as such.
All right.
Okay, over to you. Okay.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you so much, Dr. Ndibuka, for that. And yes, you're still listening to Radio Doctor, your free health consultation program where real doctors advise real people. And I still have with me Dr. Alozie Ndibuka. He has been helping us with the topic of discuss this morning. And if you have any question for him, definitely he's here to listen and take whatever question you have. And this morning we've been talking about the lungs and life, and he has been able to extensively talk on that to us. Let's get your contribution, or let me have your questions this morning on 07000 917 917 and 090 256 25455. Hello, good afternoon. Good morning, rather.
Good morning, Buki.
Good morning. What's your name and where are you calling from?
This is Peter from Pangu. Good morning, doctor. Yeah, good morning. How are you today? Fine, thank you, doctor. I know you are discussing about tongue. But doctor, I have a small something that is bothering me. So I will ask you if there's something you throw light on for me.
Yes, go ahead.
I always have this swelling in my legs. This when I notice I don't sleep very well. If I don't sleep very well, if I had like 2-3 days like that, I will notice that my leg will be swollen. And when I press it with my hands, it will just go inside like that and come out. So if I now relax for some days, now have enough sleep and not rest, you see the swelling will just go normally. And I have my normal leg back. Like I just travel, I came back, a long journey travel, and I saw that my leg was still swollen like that. So when I rested enough, the swelling just go like that. So I don't know, but I'm on medication or how do you take it? So I don't know. Thank you. That's my question, doctor.
All right. Dr. Ndibuka, do you have any question for him?
Okay, not exactly. The line has been sweet. My ears to hear, but I could make out a little of what he said. Something about his legs swelling up anytime he travels, anytime
he's stressed.
He treks or travels.
Anytime he's stressed, like he doesn't sleep, his leg swells. Then when he travels, you mentioned the last time he traveled as well, that his leg was swollen, but when he rests, the swelling goes down.
Okay. Now, the unique thing about the anatomy of the leg, when we talk about blood vessels, is that deep within the calf, like your leg, the back of your leg, are veins, the deep veins of the leg. Now, the veins of the leg bring your feet and from the rest of your leg to against gravity. I must point out against gravity towards your heart. Veins take blood back to the heart, while arteries take blood away from the heart. Now, the rest of the body, places like the head, the neck, your upper limbs, do not face this pull of gravity when bringing back blood, like the leg faces. Now, to help the legs bring blood up from your body towards your heart, muscles of the legs come into play. So each time your leg muscles, each time you're walking around, your leg muscles are also emptying and the blood vessels of the brain, and by pumping on them, it helps propel blood upwards towards your heart. Now, this process can be affected by a number of things. One is blood pressure medication, so it's hypertensive. Blood flow in a hypertensive person is not as organized as it should be. As it is in a person who is not hypertensive. Blood flows through high pressure in a hypertensive person, and this high pressure over time can injure the linings of the veins. And this injury of the lining of the veins can predispose the person to formation of clots within those deep veins. And such a person will ultimately develop what we call deep vein thrombosis. Now, this vein thrombosis on its own, of course, I've already said it's caused by clots forming. Now, on its own, this vein thrombosis now reduces the lumen available, that's the space available within the blood vessel. And by reducing that space available within the blood vessel, it reduces the efficacy of blood return back to the heart, and there will be an accumulation of blood down on your leg. Now, this accumulation of blood can be the reason behind the swelling of his feet. Then, secondly, also, when you do not move about a lot, if you are the type that sits for long, like he mentioned when he travels, one thing that comes with modern day traveling is sitting down. When you travel by road, you are sitting at one spot for hours while the car is moving. When you travel by air, you are sitting at one spot for a long time, coupled with altitude as the plane is flying. So this sitting for long robs the body, the human body, of that natural pumping action of leg muscles, and therefore reduces the return of blood back to the heart. And there will now be an accumulation of this blood in the legs, and reflexly you experience leg swelling. People who fly a lot, especially who fly long distances, like flying from Nigeria to Europe or to the United States, will tell you that when they enter a plane and the plane picks up and they remove their shoes, they remove that shoe that fitted them perfectly well before they travel. When the plane now lands at its destination and they try to put on their shoes, they will find it difficult putting on the shoes. It's because of the fact that the leg muscles have not been allowed to function to help the blood, these veins of the legs to return blood back to the heart, and accumulation of blood now exists in the legs. So what I will advise him to do, what I will advise the caller to do, is beyond exercising his legs anytime he's sitting down or lying down, he can be moving his feet. Beyond doing that, he should also consider going for what we call a Doppler ultrasound scan in the hospital. The Doppler ultrasound scan will look at his deep veins, his deep blood vessels, to see whether a thrombus has formed within the vein, the deep veins of the leg. And this will help the doctor determine the course of action. His visits to the hospital also will help the doctor determine whether his blood pressure drugs are also contributing to this swelling, because there are some blood pressure drugs that could give you what we call postural hypotension, leading to pooling of blood in the legs. And so he should go to the hospital. The Doppler ultrasound will be done on him, and also the legs will be examined more thoroughly and with an appropriate solution prepared for him.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Ndibuka, for all of that explanation as well. 070 917 917 is the studio line to call to be a part of Radio Doctor. It's 15 minutes to 11 here in the studio of Women Radio 91.7. We would like to get your contribution or your question rather for the doctor this morning. And I still have with me Dr. Alozie Ndibuka. He is the medical director, St. Ives Family Hospital. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Vicky.
Good morning. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Happy New Year. This is
Same to you.
Obina.
Oh, it's good to have you, Grandpa Obina. I said it's good to have you. How have you been?
A pleasure speaking to you for the first time in 2021.
Yes, it's good to have you.
I've not had her for quite some time.
Yeah, she calls me once in a while. She's fine.
And my great professor, Dr. Alozie Ndibuka, I say Happy New Year to you, sir. Happy New Year, Grandpa. It's good hearing your voice this year. And I hope this year will be a good year for both your good self and indeed all of us. Indeed, a great professor. You and the Women Radio, the great thing you are sharing in the air is helping Nigerians to really know that we have indeed great men in this country. And I pray one day God will give one of them chance to make this Nigeria what it should be. I want to quickly ask for this. What is the cause of war to Iran? Why will you not? You hear that your Iran is smelling? Because I have somebody who has complained to the doctor, and doctor says she should drink much more water. And she is saying that sometimes it will stop, sometimes it will come up again. That's question number one. Number two, sir, this high blood pressure, what is actually one will just be living life and the blood pressure will be going on fine, just suddenly somebody will say is having blood pressure and the problems and issues of rising and falling will be coming up. I don't know what is responsible. Why should there be high blood pressure? What is the cause, sir? And finally, sir, as an elder, the drinking of milk, is it to completely forget about it? Drinking of milk and eating of eggs, is it to be completely ruled out from the menu of elders, or is there measures through which this can be done?
All right.
That's my question. Okay.
Yes, Dr. Ndibuka, do you have any question?
Okay, yes. Let me start by thanking Grandpa Obina for his good wishes to us when he called him. I'm also thanking him for the intelligent questions which he has asked. He has asked about the elderly taking milk, taking egg, whether it has any bad effect. He has also asked that why do human beings develop high blood pressure?
Yes.
And he has also talked about smelly urine. What causes it? Let me start with the milk and egg. Is it bad for an elderly person to take milk and egg? But the way I would handle it is this. Now, the human being, it's like any other machine in a house.
Okay.
The human being is a living machine. And just like your car, you will agree with me that as your car ages, the functions of your car reduces. Your car may not be as efficient as as it used to be when you bought it newly. So the same thing applies to human beings. That you grow old, the cells and the organs of the body ages. And amongst those things that age are the digestive system and indeed the circulatory system. The circulatory system which takes blood out. So for this reason, when you grow old when you get old in age, you should be more mindful of the type of food you take.
Okay.
This food stuff like egg, like the yolk of egg, which contain high cholesterol, you should be careful about taking them too much. It's not that you should not take, but you should limit your taking it, because your body's ability to break down some of the nutrients in there and eliminate the dangerous parts has reduced. And since the ability of the body to eliminate those dangerous parts has reduced, you run the risk of putting your body in danger if you eat those if you do not show discretion in the intake of some of these things. So the elderly should be mindful of what they eat. You can take your milk, you can take your egg, but reduce it to the barest minimum. Don't take too much of it. Especially if you already have certain existing conditions like lipid problems. Then the issue of why do human beings develop high blood pressure? The answer is simple. Hypertension, majority of people who have hypertension have the type we call primary hypertension. Primary hypertension, or also known as essential hypertension. The truth about essential hypertension is that the cause of essential hypertension is not known, is not fully understood in medicine. But what we understand very well are what we call the predisposing conditions. One of the predisposing conditions is age. As you grow older in age, the arterial walls, as the walls of your arteries, which are blood vessels, get thickened, and apart from getting thickened, they get less elastic. They are no longer as elastic as they used to be. So this thickening and reduction in elasticity makes it causes a restrictive environment within the blood vessel. So unlike the younger person like Vicky, for example, when blood flows and there's an increase in the pressure of your blood, what your arteries do is that the muscles of the artery relaxes to allow the artery expand.
Okay.
And by expanding, the blood pressure reduces and remains normal. But an elderly person, that ability of the blood pressure to relax and expand its volume, that's that ability of the blood vessel, that the artery to relax and expand its blood volume, is lost.
Okay. Okay.
And by losing it, of course, various chronic ailments like diabetes also can cause can affect blood vessels in such a way that BP goes up.
Okay.
Stress. We've all heard of stress. Stress can predispose you to developing hypertension. When you are under stress, your body produces what we call stress hormones. And these stress hormones like cortisol, hormones like adrenaline, cause your blood vessels to constrict, that's to contract, and by contracting, reduce its volume. That's reduce the luminal volume, and that causes an increase in blood pressure. So many other things can. But what we know, as I said, in medicine are predisposing factors. What are those factors that predispose you? Genetics is also a predisposing factor. If you come from from a family whose members have had hypertension, you are more likely to develop. But what is the cost? The cost of essential hypertension is not fully understood in medicine. Now, with Grandpa Odina, the final one, I will just touch it a bit, the smelling urine.
Okay, because we actually have to wrap up now.
Yes. Yes, a number of things can make the urine smell. Concentration of urine can make it smell. If you are not taking enough water, enough fluid, and your urine gets concentrated, that will be, in terms of water, there will be a lot of what we call urobilinogen, a chemical urobilinogen within your urine. There is a lot of urea within. The concentration of these waste products become high, and that can make your urine smell. Another thing that can make your urine smell is if there's an infection within the urinary tract that can also cause your urine to smell. And many other things which, for lack of time, I will be able to start going through. So I will Grandpa Odina has had his questions answered.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much, Dr. Ndubaka. Thank you for joining the conversation this morning. But yes, this is what we're going to call it a wrap. But thank you very much for joining us again, Dr. Ndubaka.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Thank you so much. And yes, that was Dr. Alozie Ndubaka. He is the medical director of St. Ives Family Hospital, and he was able to enlighten us this morning on the lungs and life. But then if you have to reach him outside of the studio, definitely you can get to call him on these numbers that I am going to call out. If you have to reach him, you can reach him on 0708 872 7358, 0708 872 7358, or you can also reach him on 081 168 8093, 081 168 8093. Thank you so much for staying tuned to Women Radio 91.7. Thank you to the producer, Daniel Adaja. I am Bukola Balogun. Do have a lovely day.
To sponsor this program, please call 080-90-58-2769. My better people.